I would like to welcome you to topic number 4 of semantics. This topic is going to talk about lexical relations. This is a topic whereby the focus is going to be on semantic relations among words. By virtue of their meaning, words and phrases are able to enter into a variety of semantic relations with other words and phrases in the language. So what we're trying to say here is that it is possible to have a word relating to another word, or even a phrase relating to another phrase in one way or another. These relationships help identify those aspects of meaning relevant to linguistic analysis. The first type of a lexical relation is known as synonymy. Synonyms are words or expressions that have the same meaning in some or all contexts. So we have a list of examples here of synonyms. Youth and adolescent, begin and start, remember and recall, purchase and buy, vacation and holidays, big and large. But what you cannot hear is that these words do not have the exact meaning of the other words that we have here. So for instance, youth does not exactly mean adolescent. And even when it comes to vacation does not have the exact meaning of a holiday. Okay, so these are synonyms. In other words, that we have just seen here are synonyms, but there are contexts where their meanings may diverge. This is the reason why I'm saying that they are not. For instance, vacation does not have the exact meaning of a holiday. So here we see that bank holidays are not necessarily part of one's vacation. It is possible to have a holiday. It is possible, for instance, 1 May is a holiday, but that 1 May cannot be considered as one's vacation. Okay, we're moving on. Still looking at synonyms. I briefly mentioned in the previous slide that similarly, although youth and adolescent both refer to people of about the same age, only the latter word has the meaning of immature in a phrase such as he is such an adolescent. Okay, so not all youths can be immature, but when you use the word adolescent, that immature can be reflected in that word. So he is such an adolescent. Many linguists believe that it would be inefficient for a language to have two words whose meanings are absolutely identical in all contexts. Therefore, complete total synonyms are rare or non-existent. Can you think of words in your own language, could be Chichewa or Chitumbuka, words that can be considered as synonyms? Do you have such examples? Okay, still looking at synonymy, we want to look at the aspect of context. So context and synonymy. Studies in linguistics on synonyms have always emphasized the importance of context in deciding whether or not a set of lexical items is synonymous. Okay. If we consider words such as range, selection, choice, these three words are synonyms, but they are synonyms in a certain context. So when these three words are used, for instance, in a phrase like this one, what a nice range of flowers, what a nice selection of flowers, and also what a nice choice of flowers. But the three words may not be considered as synonyms in a context like this one. Okay, it is not possible to have or to use each of these three words, okay, in a phrase like this one, because the sentence itself, or this sentence is not going to make sense if we use each of these three words that we have here. So in this example, only range can be used along with a different set of synonyms such as breath. Okay, now we're moving on to look at another form of lexical relation. This form is what is referred to as antonymy. Antonyms are words or phrases that are opposites with respect to some component of their meaning. Okay? You've ever considered words that are opposite. Okay? And sometimes you joke about when you're interacting with friends about words that are opposite. Or sometimes you deliberately use a word that is opposite when you actually mean something else. Okay? We have some examples of such words here. Dark, light, boy, girl, hot, cold, up, down, in, out, come and go. Okay, so these words contrast with respect to at least one component of the meaning. Okay, so the meanings of boy and girl are opposites with respect to gender, but they are alike. They are considered to be alike with respect to species, because a boy is a human, so is a girl. Okay, but they are opposite when we have gender in mind. And then in a similar way, come and go. Come and go are opposites. But when you look at come and go, both these words, talk about, or they involve the concept of movement. Okay, there are different types of antonyms. We have gradable antonyms, contradictory or complementary antonyms, and also converse antonyms. So we're going to look at these three types of antonyms in detail. So to begin with, gradable antonyms. Let's begin by looking at some examples of gradable antonyms. Okay, we have beautiful, ugly, expensive, cheap, fast, slow, hot, cold, long, short, rich, poor, wide, narrow. Okay, these pairs that we have here are considered or are known as, or they are referred to as gradable antonyms because they do not represent a more or less relation. Okay, they are known as gradable antonyms because it is possible to have one of the words being placed on a continuum. So the words can be the end points of a continuum, as we have here. So it is possible to have beautiful on one end of the continuum and then ugly on the other end. And it is also possible to have expensive on one end of the continuum and then cheap on the other end of the continuum. And it is also possible to have something else in between. It is possible to have something that is not beautiful and also not ugly, something that is just in between, not expensive and not cheap. So something in between. Okay, so they do not represent a more or less relation. And this type of antonyms allow some form of comparison. Okay, we're still looking at gradable antonyms. The gradation includes comparison, especially when comparing two or more objects in terms of a certain quality. So good or bad, long or short, big or small. So we describe the quality of something by using adverbs of degree. So it is possible to say very good or even very bad. Okay, this dress is very long, or this pair of trousers is very short. So very, and with these gradable antonyms, you can also use a comparative form, ER. Okay, longer, shorter, okay, bigger, smaller, right? We have some examples here. This church is bigger than ours. Now we can even ask a question, how big is your church? It is very big. So with gradable antonyms, you can use some adverbs of degree such as very, and also it is possible to use some comparative forms that end in ER or even EST. Okay, still with gradable antonyms. Another characteristic of certain pairs of gradable antonyms is that one is marked and the other is unmarked. Okay, so long, short, good, bad. One of them is marked and then the other is unmarked. So the unmarked member is the one used in questions of degree, such as how high is the mountain? Okay, how big is the church? But you cannot say how low is the mountain. Okay, and the answer to a question like how high is the mountain will be 10,000 feet high, but you don't respond by saying 10,000 feet low. Okay, so in this case, high, tall, and fast are unmarked, while low, short, slow are marked. Another type of antonym is known as contradictory or complementary antonyms. Examples of contradictory or complementary antonyms include alive or dead, male or female, present or absent, innocent or guilty, odd or even, pass or fail, boy or girl, hit or miss. So these pairs here are referred to as contradictory antonyms because they represent either or relation. So either or relation. So it can be either alive or dead. Okay, but you cannot be like we saw with gradable antonyms. You cannot be in between. Okay, Remember what we saw with gradable antonyms. We said that with the beautiful and ugly, it is possible to have something in between. So with contradictory antonyms or complementary antonyms, you cannot have somebody who is in between here. You have to be either alive or dead. Okay? So since contradictory antonyms are not gradable, they do not allow comparison. We saw that with gradable antonyms, they allow comparisons, but with these form or this type of antonyms, there is no comparison. Okay, we still continue with contradictory or complementary antonyms. Contradictory or complementary antonyms cannot represent the endpoints of a continuum like we saw with gradable antonyms because of the either or relation. Hence, A and B below are true. So X is female implies X is not male. X is not female implies X is male. Okay, and furthermore, C and D, here C and D are true but not E. So C and D are true but not E. Okay, so this is just telling us that E is not true because it is possible with gradable antonyms to have words representing different points of a continuum. Because it is possible with gradable antonyms to have words representing different points of a continuum. Remember what we said about ungradable antonyms? It is possible to have hot on this one end of a continuum and then cold on the other end of a continuum. And it is also possible to have something in between. Okay, so X is hot implies X is not cold. X is cold implies X is not hot. But X is not hot doesn't imply X is cold. Okay, another kind of an antonym is known as converse antonyms. Converse antonyms are also known as relational opposites. They exhibit the reversal of a relationship between items. Okay, so the reversal of a relationship. So consider the following examples: buy versus sell, lend versus borrow, give, receive, parent, child, husband, wife, above, below, before, after, host, guest, employer, employee, teacher, student. Okay, some of these words that we see here, okay, are verbs, others are nouns. Okay, and there are also other words that are adverbs, like before and after, examples of adverbs. Teacher, student, examples of nouns. Okay, buy and sell, examples of verbs. So furthermore, some of these pairs indicate not only the relationship but the sex of the person concerned. So father or mother, son or daughter, uncle or aunt, nephew or niece. Okay, lend is the converse of borrow and vice versa. That is, the substitution of one member for the other does not change the meaning of a sentence if it is accompanied by the change of subject and object as illustrated below. Okay, we have Yohani lent Maria 5,000 kwacha. Okay, so we have lent, and with this example, Yohani is the subject. But when we have the verb borrowed, so lent versus borrowed, now Maria becomes the subject. Can you see here? Maria borrowed 5,000 kwacha from Yohani. Okay, so the substitution of one member for the other does not change the meaning of a sentence if it is accompanied by the change of subject and object. So we've seen the change, okay, of subject and object in these two examples, but the meaning is still the same. And then now, how do we form antonyms? So formation of antonyms. Okay, there are different ways of forming antonyms. Okay, one of them is just by adding the prefix "an," and you can also add the prefix "nan," and then we see the addition of a prefix "in," and also the prefix "mis," and then lastly the prefix "dis." Okay, so with the addition of the prefix "an," okay, likely versus unlikely, able versus unable. Okay, so unlikely, you can form an antonym for likely. Okay, you can have the opposite of likely just by adding the prefix "an," and you can also have the opposite, okay, of frameable just by adding the prefix "nan," at the very beginning of frameable. So frameable, non-frameable, existent, non-existing. And then within competent, incompetent, tolerant, intolerant, you have opposites. And then misbehave, misbehave, you have the opposite of behave. Mismanage, the opposite of manage. Displease, the opposite of please. Disrespect, the opposite of respect. So we have antonyms here. Okay, so we've looked at antonyms, okay, as another form of lexical relation. Now we're moving on to look at another lexical relation that may be there among words. Okay, and this one is the one that is referred to as polysemy. Polysemy occurs when a word has two or more related meanings. Okay, we have some examples here: bright, deposit, and to be gray. Okay, bright